Good morning, Giants. Welcome to Wake Up with Giants TV. Have you ever wondered how to go farther? Good morning, Giants. Welcome to Wake Up with Giants TV. This morning, we are going farther. Gosh darn it, this is happening. So, if you have not subscribed on YouTube, go ahead, go to YouTube, hop on there, hit the alert button, subscribe so you know when we go live every single dang time. And then go to Facebook and join a tribe of giants. It's an awesome, awesome community with a lot of support and amazing people in there. And yeah, we've got so many great things going on. We are working on getting our the book made into a Pixar movie. I think April 1st, which is April Fool's Day for everyone else, but for us, it's a special day because
Yeah,
we're gonna bombard Pixar with lots and lots of letters um, to tell them why the Giants and the Small should be a Pixar movie. So watch for the post that we do on that because that'll be a fun thing. And then what else, Nick? What we got the Sum Gigante groups going on right now.
yeah.
Watch
12-week
PSG.
programs coming up with a new program that'll run self-study for 12 weeks. So that'll be coming up pretty shortly. And so we'll tell you about that once it launches.
Sounds pretty rad.
It is pretty rad.
Nick, will you introduce our pretty rad guest as
Yeah,
well?
I will. Yeah, Vien, and I was reading it wrong. I kept saying Vahen, and no,
That's
it's not.
okay.
It's
That's
Vien,
okay. That's okay. It's
Vien
just as long
King.
as you're going to let me be one of your characters in the show, then we'll call it even.
Yeah, we'll
Perfect.
call it even. We'll call it
Excellent.
square.
Good way.
So, Vienna is an author, international speaker, and founder of the non-profit organization Going Farther. At age 23, 1 week after her engagement, she developed transverse myelitis. Is that right? A
Yes.
virus that left her physically disabled and dependent on the use of a wheelchair. Trying to adapt as a person with a disability, her new normal was feeling of self-doubt and exclusion. So I'm sure many can relate to that. Reaching a point of desperation, she realized that she had a choice to make: to be paralyzed by fears and insecurities or push forward. She chose the latter. In 2017, Vienne was crowned the first ever Miss Wheelchair Canada and Miss Kindness World. Not only her beauty, but her character has won her awards. Her recent title was the 2021 Woman of Inspiration Influencer Award. So Vienna's dynamic. She's resilient. She's very witty. We've seen that already this morning. Her journey is one of deep emotional, physical, and spiritual pain. Yet, as you hear her powerful story unfold, you'll see how she weaves these unwelcome struggles together with God's love and grace into a story of hope and courage. She's the author and publisher of two books, fittingly titled Going Farther and Contagious Courage. And she's an international speaker and the founder, again, of that organization Going Farther. So thank you for being on this show with us.
That was rad.
That was rad.
Wow. Sometimes I get intimidated by my own titles and description. But listen, I'm just a confidently imperfect girl who just
Yeah,
says
if-
yes. And if I make mistakes, I just kind of roll with it.
That's
Pardon
perfect.
the pun.
If your titles don't scare you, then you might want to rewrite your titles, right?
I guess I never
Yeah.
thought about it that way. I always thought if your dreams don't scare you, you're not big enough. But I mean, I like that one too.
Yeah, that's another stretch. Well, we're going to dive into your story because I think it's going to serve in ways maybe we didn't expect, especially like we were talking before the show around digging deeper in difficult times. That might be another book for you right there. Dig deeper. Right.
Well, actually, I just launched a new part of Going Farther.
Uh-huh.
It's actually a group of a team that where we're actually going deeper. It's like in
Okay.
order to have the courage to go farther, you need to dig deeper, and that's actually
Yeah.
really fresh. This is probably the first time I've actually said it publicly. So
That's amazing. Yeah, you heard it here first, guys.
Boom.
Like CNN. You heard this news here first.
That was awesome.
It's a Wake Up with Giants exclusive. You know, we love exploring the journey, and in the journey, your philosophy is going to come out. And so we go back in time, either to childhood or to an event that was an awakening. And I think in your case, I want to go back. If you want to talk about childhood, you can, if that lays a foundation. But I want to go back to this experience, if that works, at 23, and how that impacted your life, and some of the, I guess, the shifts and transformations you experienced because of that.
Listen, I want to just tell you, I
Yeah.
grew up in a small town, Newfoundland, right? With
Okay.
red hair, freckles, and a personality that was too big, right?
Yeah.
And I was just always, I don't think I had the same, what is it, those boundaries they put in around like things like your warning signs or whatever. Like I always craved to the attention, and it didn't matter if it was good or bad. And that was like, as a kid, like as a parent, as my parent, that would be really scary. I remember in grade 1, there was an outbreak of lice and I got it. And I was just so excited that I got something no one else had, right? I mean, and I'm like, my mom came to get me because I
got
I
lice.
know, I got lice. Anyway, and I was just like, I wasn't supposed to get home on the bus that day. My mom was supposed to come get me. Well, where was I? I was like right in the back of the bus, like excited to tell everybody that look at this bottle that the nurse gave me that no one else has. Mom came on the bus to get me, and no kidding, I just stood to my feet. I'm like, Mom, I got the crawler.
I just
Right?
pictured
So
like Buddy the Elf, where he's like, Santa! He's like
I
so
know,
excited that you got
totally.
lice.
Totally. And so the segue into me as an adult, like I've always been like really out there and a lot. And so with that, I've always felt like that I wanted to do something with my life. I wanted to be different. I wanted to but in the journey of like, okay, so I went to college to become a humanitarian, Bible college, theology, and to, impact people's lives that way. And I graduated, and things were not really good after graduation. But that's when I met the love of my life, Vaughn, and he came in like on a white horse. And I'm being really cheesy, but that you read the books, you will agree with me. And so like we fell in love. It was just like he came into a point in my life when I was in this I hate man and God phase a little bit, I think. Or God and I were on speaking terms, weren't really doing well. And he came in and he wooed me, and we just fell in love. And within 9 months, he had a ring on my finger, and it was just like, wow, my life is making sense, And so anyway, a week after he proposed to me, I was getting ready to go out and show off my ring to some friends, and I was super excited. But I didn't end up going where I was planning to go that day. I ended up in the hospital, fighting for my life, literally. I woke up that morning and I was experiencing some pain in my chest, down my arms. It was going numb, and I was just like trying to wake up my fingers, and I was just excruciating pain. Got the ambulance, got me to the hospital, and they actually had to hook me up to the IV for the pain because it was just too painful. And as I'm laying there waiting to be seen, I noticed that I couldn't move my arm without like doing this. And then after a while, I didn't even think it was odd until I started to do it with my legs. And then I was like, wait a minute, nurse. And I said, nurse, I can't feel my legs. And so immediately I was wheeled into an emergency room. They were checking my vitals, checking my reflexes. Every 15 minutes, the reflexes were less and less, and I had no idea what was happening. And they had life support waiting. That was a funny thing, how the only thing that didn't paralyze that day was my tongue. But anyway, I know that's funny, but it's not. Anyway, I shouldn't really make light of it. But
Hey, that's a positive.
it is. I mean, there was anyway. So that day in the hospital, I was paralyzed literally from the chest down. And I was just like, you still don't even realize in that moment, like how serious it is. Like, do I go, like I have a job, full-time job. I just bought a new car. Like, do I call in sick on Monday? This is Sunday, right? And so test after test, I didn't know what was wrong. And finally they diagnosed me with the transverse myelitis, where your nerve endings and all this is in the myelin sheath of your spinal cord, they all just forget what your body is supposed to do.
Wow, holy cow.
And like literally I couldn't even sit up. And like through all of those tests and getting diagnosed, the doctor came in and he gave me the report. He said, Vahen, you have transverse myelitis and we're going to send you to long-term care, all this kind of stuff. But my biggest question was, do I still have a fiance? And that was kind of how we started our life together.
Wow. So that illness, can we talk about that a little bit? So you spend a lifetime developing these neural pathways, these connections, and then in an instant they're all destroyed.
Yeah.
Is that right?
Yes. I kind of equate it to if you've got an extension cord that you plugged in and there's a little short circuit, the signals don't get through. Now over time, there has been some signals getting through because I can pretty much, I have full range of movement for that, as far as that goes. And so I've been able to recover a lot. I'm considered a walking para.
Yeah. Okay.
Like I can walk a little bit with help, and sometimes I walk with a walker. If I need to get to a bathroom that's not accessible, I can do a Spider-Man in the stall or whatever.
Yeah.
But yeah, so it's been a long journey.
Do you shoot webs?
Oh, I do. Look, I do.
Yeah, I do. I do.
I can imagine. So as I think of our audience too, I do.
Oh dear.
Yeah.
I know. Please don't get me started. Like you don't want.
No,
that.
we will get you started. We'll keep it going too.
This is interview, isn't it, for the cartoon?
You know, I imagine that, you know, the shock of that. And there are a lot of people in our group that have had impact in some form, whether it's paralyzation or an amputation or trauma. And there's this sudden change in your life. You didn't choose it. You didn't want it there. It wasn't expected. There's no play up to it. It's just suddenly your life changes. And I would wonder for you how that impacted your mind. How did that impact your well-being?
I'm fine. I'm fine. Don't worry about me. I'm fine. You know, like,
yeah.
Originally, it was like,
I don't believe you.
What's that?
I don't believe you.
No, and that's exactly it.
Yeah.
I just kept being strong because originally it was like, you know what, I have faith. I believe that, you know, God's going to heal me and we're going to get through this. And, you know, and what an amazing first step is that, you know, my fiance at the time, I asked him to take the ring back because this is not what he signed up for. And he said, you know, God gave you to me and I'm not going to give you back now and say you're not good enough. And that was an amazing first step. But man, I'm telling you what, like, it didn't matter how many times he said, I love you and I want to work on us or I want to keep us. Like, we experienced so much trauma and loss, and it was so much more than this chair and transverse myelitis. Like, but if I didn't choose to love me and figure out like my identity now, I didn't want to live as a person with a disability. Yeah. And now I'm forced into this reality. And so it didn't matter if he loved and accepted me, even though I mean, obviously it mattered, but I didn't see it at the time. And so digging deep, and it took a long time. Yeah. And it was like, I ain't going to no support groups for people that are in wheelchairs. I ain't going to drive until I drive with my feet. Like, it just went on. Like, after 3 years.
Total resistance, right? Just complete resistance to it.
Complete resistance. And we could keep doing this in the things that we go through in life over and over and over. And eventually I realized that if I don't find another way to do life, because clearly the situation ain't going to change overnight. So if I don't find another way, which is another one of my big points of how I can have my contagious courage, is finding another way. Yeah. To get around and finding another way, but just doing what you can to survive. And initially it was finding another way to do life, like all the practical things, right?
Yeah.
And then realizing, like, man, when you see that what you do encourages other people, which is why I'm here today, man, when I tapped into that, that was a whole new way to live. Like realizing that that little girl that just wanted to do something is
Or the
able
kid
to do it,
slice.
right?
I could picture the gif, you know, with the little girl and the cotton candy, and she's like,
Yeah.
she's
And like don't get listen. I want people to know who are going through trauma that I am so sorry that that trauma even actually exists.
Mhm.
Um and you have to, I believe, if I were to say anything about trauma and where I was and what I had to walk through to get to where I am today, please let someone love you where you are. Because we push people away when we don't feel good enough. That's what I did.
Mm.
We push people away because we feel that we're no longer worthy or we're no longer lovable. And I could talk to you for another full hour on the fact that, a week into me getting disabled, having people in the church, people like me saying, you don't have enough faith. That's why you're not healed, or there's something wrong with you. There's sin in your life. That's why God's not healed you yet. I could talk about the miscarriage I had. I could talk about the fact that I no longer thought I was worthy of my husband, so I pushed him away. I was unfaithful to my husband. You want to talk about a book full of trauma? I have it. So I know trauma. But letting someone, listen, how hard do you think it was to walk through infidelity? Never mind all this disabled talk, right? What about walking through that and allowing someone to come in, even after, it was one thing for him to say, I want you and I want to work on us, as I was laying on a hospital bed.
Yeah.
But after like the brokenness that I experienced, because when you're in pain, you make bad decisions in your pain. You try to fill a void because something's missing in your pain. And when you have somebody willing to come sit with you in that, it doesn't go away instantly, but it starts lifting the pain.
I want to slow down in this because
There's
this
so much.
transition is probably the hardest part for most people, is that transition between your trauma and creating a life. And that brokenness, whether it's infidelity or, it doesn't matter what it is.
It doesn't matter, it's brokenness.
Yeah, and it's all happening in here. So that transition from feeling like flawed, broken, pushing people away, showing people why you're broken, right? Essentially, you're proving why you're broken, and you're finding ways to give evidence of that. And then you have somebody on the outside going, look, I don't buy into your story. I don't know what's going on in there, but let's fix it and move on. But it all has to be transformed right here, right inside of you. Otherwise, nothing changes out here.
Yeah.
So how do you, the how-to, I get a little leery about how-tos because there's so many of them out there in the world and people don't do anything with it. So what would you recommend somebody do, or what did you do if you shared your story that really transitioned you from being that broken person to actually creating what you have today?
So good. So good. So many different layers. First, I want to say, stop telling yourself you can't or you're not enough, right? And I could only share from my experience as well, right?
Yeah.
Because I mean, you just heard that I was a churchgoer, and maybe you don't know that I actually am an ordained minister. I can hatch, match, and dispatch. Those kind of things. So I know what it is to be in the church, but I also know what it is to be hurt by the church and all those well-meaning people. But all people everywhere are going to hurt you. And so you have to find something. And honestly, I want to tell you that this journey of my trauma not only made me dig out who God truly was for myself, because here's the thing, I equated all the words and actions of others as, well, that is God. So if that's God, I now don't like God either. or anything related to him. So
Can we anchor it before you go on?
yeah,
Like, hang on to that.
yeah.
Let's anchor this in, because we have this tendency to blame something, someone, right?
Yeah.
And then there's this resentment for it. And
Yeah.
then we hold on to that resentment, and that becomes our anchor into staying what we call quote unquote broken.
Yeah.
Is that accurate? Like,
Yeah, absolutely. And I had all the same. I'm blaming that person. I'm blaming this person. I'm blaming everyone else, and I'm blaming God for my infidelity because of how could He let this happen? I was just that little girl. I just want to love and serve you, and now this is how you thank me. Being paralyzed and like ruining my life. But I want to tell you, and like as God is my witness, and the people closest to me will know that honestly, I'm so thankful for my journey because it has allowed me to dig out and truly find out who God was. And I can guarantee you that from what I know of God, I don't care who you are, you ain't going to make me doubt who God is and how loving He is. And so if there's someone in your life that's not loving and judgmental, they don't matter. I think I can say that with accuracy. And even my life now, or let's transition from getting to the point where I am today. My strong faith that I have didn't even come overnight. Like I told my husband, listen, just like the freckles on my arm here, I didn't know I was going to be able to change. I didn't know how I was even going to feel worthy. So I understand that whole identity thing. But just like you start something, you have to start small. Or just like when you compromise once, it's nothing. You compromise twice, and you just make these little compromises that take you away from somewhere. I would say the little yeses, don't underestimate the little yeses that lead to somewhere also.
okay,
And that's what I had to do.
Let's pause. Yeah, that's you are giving nugget after nugget after nugget.
Yeah, slow down. Can't
Good
rate
grief.
that. No, just kidding.
Yeah.
I'm newbie, I got that, and I've got all the energy.
Yeah, well, I want to anchor them in because they're so powerful. The trauma, the word trauma comes from the word to turn a wound. Etymologically, that's where it's from. It's twisting of that wound, and it's keeping it fresh. Essentially, people with traumas, it's fresh. It's a full body experience, and there are these resentments that come up, and you're blaming the world, you're blaming God, you're blaming whoever, and there's no letting go of that. So you continue to twist that wound, and there's not somebody outside of you twisting it for you. There might be triggers in the environment that remind you of it, but then you resent that, you refeel it, and you bring it back up within you, and there's just this anger. And I think people want this drastic change. They're like, I want to go from that to whole like this.
Yeah.
And the body isn't designed that way. Nothing of what we've created is created in an instant, generally, except for loss of things. Like the loss of things can be sudden, but the creation of things is generally small steps repeated consistently over time create everything that we have.
Absolutely. And I'm going to tell you something that will help you really nail that down.
Yeah.
I actually, what if I told you about a gym membership, maybe post-COVID, and I went every single day. I didn't miss a day. That's like pretty impressive, right? You guys. I got my routine down pat. I go to the gym, I sit at the back, and I watch everybody else get fit. I sweat. I even cheer some people on. Like, well, yeah, and like you're wasting your money and you're absurd to think that. Like, oh yeah, I'm gonna get fit. I go to the gym every day. Well, wanting it and desiring that and getting up and going, it's still not even enough. You actually have to put in the work and do the time to actually do that change, right? And it's hard. And sometimes it is just going there and being in that space where you're encouraged and inspired by other people's desire to actually get on that treadmill or do whatever. And why is it any different spiritually or emotionally, mentally? Why is it that we can't set boundaries? Like, okay, why do I have to let myself be subjected to that conversation every day or every week? You don't have to. Stop being a codependent people pleaser and cut some things out of your life. Right? That's another part of it. I know. Anyway, so that's another side.
Yeah, but starting with that. So I say in my book, The Art of Accomplishment, to get what you want out of life, you got to be willing to suck at something long enough to get good at it.
Yes.
And we want to be the expert right off the bat. So there's this thing that we got to go through called process and
Yes.
procedure and consistency. And then your body starts to support you. What's amazing about your illness is that in an instant, that was all taken away. All that programming, all that work, that hard work that was
Yeah.
created over time was taken away in an instant. And you've regained some of it, but a lot of it's still gone. And there's this relearning of this new way of being, because
Yes.
now you are in a wheelchair. You can walk, but you go to the bathroom Spider-Man style. And it's one of those things that you take what is left, right? And you create from that. I would imagine that there's some acceptance that needs to occur within there, some grace for the
grace.
yeah. Can you talk about that?
I came literally to the end of myself, because the way I was living was no way to live. I would literally come home at the end of my day. I would crawl into bed and cry myself to sleep. Like that was the routine for way too long. And
that's
I know
not healthy. Is that what
and
we're
that,
saying?
oh. But I know it's real, right? It's those kind of situations, and so having to go through that to get back up and lean into just being able to make the choice to get out of bed. Like I had a choice to make. Listen, I can I could literally just die, because this is no way to live. I just said, okay, here. I just said, God, just take it. Just take everything that I am, because I am done. And so I was basically didn't think God could do anything with it, which is why it was easy to give it up if you got nothing to lose, right? I just said, okay, just take it all. And slowly he started. It wasn't overnight. But if I kept hanging on to all this pride and anger and bitterness against other people and playing the blame game or self-pity, and the wheels will just keep turning, and you'll never step off the hamster wheel into like freedom if you're not willing to let go of some pride.
I just want to point to the imagery here, like that your strings coming off your hand look like shackles in a way. As you're describing this, that's what it feels like, is those shackles that are there, that are
broken.
Yeah. See, visually, you just
Spider-Man
killed the show.
That's actually the book image that I have.
Yeah.
Oh wow.
With the chains and the birds breaking the chains at the top.
That might be a new style trend, is just wear broken chains on your wrist, just as a reminder that we're free.
We are free.
Yeah.
And we passed the prison. Vaughn and I were driving and we passed the prison here in Alberta. Yeah. And I looked in there and I saw, like, spiritually and mentally how, like, there's so many people in prisons with the doors wide open.
Yeah. No physical building, right?
No physical building, but you are trapped and you don't realize you can be free. Oh, but you don't know what I've been through, Vahen. No, I don't. But I know that what I've been through, if I could come through what I've been through, like, I didn't want anybody seeing me in a wheelchair. I felt like ugly, and it was just, how can I go from that to strutting myself on a runway stage and having joy in the midst of a pandemic even?
Yeah.
Right? Like, it's not, I didn't make this up. I didn't have 5 espressos this morning, even though you might think so. It's literally like when we talked, even Nicholas, when we came on the show before we came on live, we were talking about other amazing people that are on your show. And I said, like, there's some people in this world who have been blessed, and I will tell you, have been blessed with some of these life experiences. While we've not experienced a pandemic before, we have had to learn to dig deep to survive.
Yeah.
And that is what people are learning now. How do you dig deep? Well, for me, I just have to learn to let go of things that I can't control, and be responsible, own up to what I can control, and just do the next right thing. And my faith, man, I'm telling you, if I don't have anything bigger than yoga to hang on to, I'm not going to make it.
I
What
hear
about
so much in
yoga and rock stars? I-
We're gonna have a
what if
session
you don't have
before
yoga, but
and
you
after
just
the
have
show, I
rock
guess.
you
stars?
just have a bunch of people running around stretching like really fast, like buzzing, right? You are hitting on so many points. So when we teach the 12 journeys, a lot of what we do is work with the inner stuff first before we get into vision and creation and
Oh,
any
it's
of that.
so important.
And you talk about surrender. Surrender means surrender over to another. And it's that point where you just hand off to a higher power, higher self, higher version, some form, something outside of you. And you're like, I'm not doing so well myself. So I'm going to put this out there. And what's amazing about that is in that surrendering, we're finally humble in a way that we can be taught and start to create it differently. I think we're at the point that, I kind of give up on my way of doing things because I'm
Oh,
forcing this. I want it to be this way. And the rendering over to another, the nurturing of it, I look at life like gardening. Like we go through the 12
yes.
journeys and we're rebuilding all that stuff that you didn't get. You go through
Mhm.
trauma and you're rebuilding a new life from that trauma. You lose a limb and you're rebuilding with this new way of being. You're paralyzed and you're rebuilding with now being in a wheelchair or whatever that looks like.
Yeah.
And so that surrender it is what it is. It's an acceptance of this is what it is. This is what I've got to work with. And I either move forward, like you said, or I die off. And then you create this purpose from that, this
Yes.
reason for
Yes.
living. Yep.
Yes.
Yes. Preach, right? Like
Yes.
you create this purpose and that gives you hope and energy. It's amazing when people don't have purpose, how little energy they have. There's no meaning
Mhm.
to life. And so energy gets sapped. But when you have
Yeah.
purpose and hope, then it gives you a reason to keep going and you find this energy you didn't know was there. And even in a situation where there's some traumatic event, that purpose will carry you to the other side.
Mhm.
Can you talk about that a little bit?
Purpose carrying you to the other side. Well, I think purpose is what gives meaning in life, right? If people lose hope or purpose, I think you do
Yep.
lose your will to live. And I think that's a really, could you ask that what is it
Yeah,
that,
yeah. I'm going
yeah,
to share a
unpack that a little bit.
I'm going to share a version of purpose because I know a lot of people that get hung up on purpose. I don't have this grand life purpose. They think
Yeah,
it's
like
got to
it could
be
be so
handed to
many things
me.
for so many different people.
Yeah, I'm sitting here waiting in the purpose line and I haven't received mine yet. And I'm really disappointed because I don't have this grand thing that was handed to me. And I love Viktor Frankl's work, Yes to Life, Man's Search for Meaning. Purpose, there's two versions of it. One is it's created. Purpose comes from the Latin word propose, which means to pausar. It's a place to rest. So when you move forward, it's a place you're going to rest and then you'll pick another one. And Viktor Frankl talks about in the camps that people would create a purpose, and it could be as simple as giving bread to their friend the next day so that they
Right.
could live, right? A purpose can be anything in my view of it,
Yeah. Yeah.
that
Yeah.
it's a place to rest. And so the purpose, we often think, well, if I had a purpose, if I just knew what that was, then I could get somewhere. But then
If I
you
had a
really,
platform, if I could only write a
yeah,
book, if I could
yeah,
only do that.
yep. If it was comparable, if I were to set it on a desk and have somebody else set theirs on there and we compared them, mine would at least be comparable to what they've got.
Mhm.
And a purpose is all made up. It's made up and you can have thousands of them.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So that's my version of it. What do you think around that?
Well, oh,
Yeah, go ahead.
sorry. Well, I think that if we don't change our mindset to think that when I accomplish this,
Yeah.
then I'll be happy,
Hmm.
because purpose is so much more than something that I'm going to create.
Yeah.
Because then what happens when the book don't sell or I just accomplished that? I'm still left empty.
Yeah.
And like when we even talked, about the platform and growing your audience, and you need the platform to be able to share your voice or whatever. And I'm like, well, those are all really good.
Yeah.
Like I said, it wouldn't even matter. I said, in this season right now, if I was to tell you what my purpose right now is to
Yeah.
be present at my barista. If I'm making more time for people, trying to anyway,
Beautiful.
because I still need to tap in to make sure I have it. So my purpose in life is to help other people find hope because I had lost it. And that is my purpose. And so how do I find that? I've written books, I've started a nonprofit organization, but if that in then becomes my purpose, then I've lost it again. What is my purpose? My purpose is why I'm put on this earth. And if I have to restructure some things, maybe I don't write another book for 5 years, but I've helped Ryan overcome, or I've encouraged other people. These things give you life. Things don't give you life. Purpose does. And I think that that's and it's not attaining something. Yes, attaining something on your journey, like fulfilling your purpose is great, but they aren't the things that are going to give you life.
The accomplishment. Yeah. Oh man, you're hitting it hard. And this is beautiful because
thank you.
The purpose is the thing that gives meaning to life. Happiness, happiness is an emotion. It's just like anger and frustration and sadness and all these other things that we experience. It's fleeting. It comes and goes, but it's found on the pathway of purpose. And purpose isn't the creation, because you'll have the creation in hand and still feel indifferent. It's like you created this amazing thing and then you have that in hand and there's no change in your emotional state. But in the creation of it, there is. In the pursuit of it, there is this shift.
Yes. And like if I didn't get over myself and view myself differently, I would miss like the purpose of why I'm put on this earth. Because I thought that my dreams had died. I thought my purpose, I didn't think I was ever going to now make a difference in life. And I have never been more in line with my purpose as a person with a disability than I could ever have. Would you guys like even call me up for an interview if I was just redheaded, newfie, just like this sheltered little girl who hadn't had experienced anything? Maybe. Like all my life, I wanted to make a difference. I didn't even know what that meant. And then I became different and I didn't like it. I was like, all my life I wanted to be different. And now I realized I'm different to make a difference. And I love this song Micah Tyler sings. I'll just quote. I won't sing.
Man,
don't tap me. I want to be different. I want to be changed till all of me is gone, and all that remains is a fire so bright that all the world will see that there's something different. So God can be different in me. And if there's anybody looking for purpose, work on yourself from the inside, and man, purpose will find you.
Yeah.
Like if you focus on you, and if right now all you can do, Vahen, I'm so lost, I'm so broken, I don't even know what purpose is, and I can't even repeat all that what Nicholas said. If all you can think about today is I need to eat that meal. I need to get dressed today. I need to do self-care because that is my next right thing. Take care of me in every next right thing that you can do.
Wow.
And that will just lead you to more. Because once you realize that you actually got up today and you tuned in because this is your last chance or whatever, then you did something that you can be proud of today in this moment. What can you do tomorrow that's going to help you towards being a better you? And don't think about, well, I don't want to be better to like inspire the world. No, be better for you first. And that's where it starts.
I nerd out. I go into the scientific and the pathways and I'm just seeing just a clear system process for this. And it's not that it's necessarily a system, but it is. It is. The idea of survival, you get into this emotional state and you're in survival mode. And your body is triggered and your brain shuts off and all you can think about is what's right in front of you. And reality is what it is. You start seeing reality as it is. And sometimes that can be really gloomy. And so you get triggered and you're in this space of surviving and you're just looking at the world wondering how you're going to get through it. And what I hear that you offer inside of this is that when you're in survival, survive. Take care of those needs. Take care of one need, then take care of the next need, and then take care of the next need.
Yes, maybe you were the influencer who encouraged like 15 people on a regular Saturday or whatever. But this Saturday, it's like, man, like I'm not even knowing how to survive myself. Well, be open about that.
Yeah.
Like allow yourself some space and time to heal and work through some stuff. Because I've envisioned this season that we're going through You guys, like when the Titanic is going down, like everybody is in survival mode, and it's like it's literally every man for himself, except there are some people that are there to help those who can't.
This is
And
more.
if you
This is morbid, but hang on to that. Like, keep
no,
going, then I'll come back to mine. How about that? So there's people that help, but they just can't, right? Like,
yeah, and so in that mode, if you are somebody that God has gifted with the ability, and maybe you're in the front lines and you don't have the ability to go and refresh as often as the next person,
yeah,
like you've got to figure out how to dig deep. Maybe there's someone around you that are in the front lines. How could you reach out to them to help them, right? And so if you can't help yourself, look to someone around that can. But I know that for me, it's like you're in survival mode. And please, if you can help yourself, because it takes the pressure off some of the other front lines, whether it's physical in healthcare or it's mental. Like if you can mentally support yourself right now, do it, because you don't need to take up extra resources. And that's not to say that you can't reach out, because we all need people to reach out. But hear me, I need to refresh myself or I'm no good to no one else.
Yeah.
Right. And so there's been some times in this season where there's been people that I would run to or turn to, and I realized that they're not giving me what I would normally have gotten or whatever. And it's just like God has become my person since transverse myelitis and through everything that I've been through, trying to turn to people that, I mean, right? Trying to turn to people for the things that they're not going to be able to give you. And so digging deep and allowing God to be my person in COVID, more so than ever, having to dig deep yet again.
Yeah, man, I think of the Titanic, right? People are in survival mode. The ship's going down. You're in survival mode. And some dude comes along and says, I'm going to open a food truck. It's the day to start a new business, right? We don't think that way. We don't think, well, I'm going to go into thriving and build this thing when I'm in survival state. You just focus on what's at hand and you survive it. The challenge is that not all of us are in that state. So when the world is falling apart, what you're offering here is that you anchor in with people who are feeling in that thriving, stable, calm state, because they're not affected by the environment as much.
Yes.
And so they create some stability. So as you create your own stability, then you'll be able to do that for somebody else.
Absolutely.
But until you get to that point, then your primary responsibility is to take care of your own needs to get out of that survival state, which it's not a requirement to get out of it. It's just an opportunity to get out of it. It's simply, you have that in you, but we spin ourselves up and we stay there.
Yeah. Yeah. I know. And I didn't want to. I knew there was another way. I didn't want to. And until you want to, I mean, sometimes it's doing it, like fake it till you make it kind of thing.
Yeah.
Right? Like you're not going to like rebuilding my marriage. Did I fall in love right away? No, it was a rebuilding process.
Yeah. The step by step.
Before you even think about,
Yeah.
It's a step by step. Yeah. Like people are great, and they're great to have people in your life. And like, if Vahen didn't hang on to me, I think about, have you ever seen a seal caught in the net? This YouTube video went viral one time, and I saw that, and I was just like, oh my word, that was me. I was the seal caught in the net, and I was like all bound up. And the guy who came to rescue this baby seal, like literally suffered a bite every so often, and the seal didn't know it was being rescued. It knew it wanted to be free, but it didn't know. And so, I've been like, dear Lord, help me be okay to get bitten when I'm getting close to people who need to be free. And it's not about me. Like, your trauma has nothing to do with me, but like, help me be strong enough to get over myself to be able to love you, and like get those things off of you until you can feel loved, right? Like,
yeah, wow. Wow. It's there's so much grace for that when you're in a survival state, it's okay to be in a survival state. Humans are designed to survive, and we can survive. Viktor Frankl described it as a bridge under pressure, that the more pressure you put on it, some people that actually, they get stronger under that pressure. And
Yeah.
so we can support a lot of things, but mentally we think, well, I shouldn't be here. So we judge ourselves against what we
Mm.
idealize in others, what we think they're thinking about us. So we judge them and us based off of that ideal. And giving yourself some space to be where you're at. If I'm in survival state, I'm in survival state. And I know I can create myself out of it.
Yeah.
And other people think I'm in survival state. You need to accommodate my survival state. So don't, like you said, bite. I'm going to bite you if you try and support me. And the challenge is that creation out of it starts right inside of here.
Mm-hmm.
And it can be a slow process. It might be quicker than you think, but it doesn't change if there's no change. So the small incremental steps, we always say that giants still take small steps. They're just bigger in capacity. That's it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah.
But,
Yeah.
yeah.
People ask me if I ever fear, or like, Vahen, you're writing books on courage and all this kind of stuff. Like, do you ever fear?
Yeah.
And I'm like, listen, let me talk to the people around me. Yes, I still fear. Of course, I still fear. Like, and that's the whole point of courage, right? It's not the absence of fear, and it's just that I've learned to give up, because you're fearful of things that you don't know about or you can't control, right? And so it's about that constantly giving up control and surrender. And I'm like, yeah, I still fear. I think so. Here's another huge piece for me. Growing up in the church and thinking, or even this persona that I had for myself, push it down. I'm okay. I'm strong. I'm okay. Listen, God is okay. If yelling, screaming, swearing, having very real emotion to some very real trauma. Like, he's okay with that. And I think it's like, oh, I shouldn't talk to God like that. Well, he hears you anyway. And like, honestly, you've been improperly introduced to him, and it's okay to express, like, losing a daughter to cancer, losing a father to cancer, like or a disease or an accident that took their life sooner. Like, nobody needs to hear that, oh, all things work together for good to them that love God and called according to his purpose. Like, no, you keep that to yourself. You pray that for them, but you just love them, like, and give people space to have the questions and doubts and get angry, because if you don't, you're pushing them in a bad space that makes you feel that, like, no one cares or understands. We just need to be real and allow people to feel very real emotion about loss and trauma.
You are hitting on, I look at the book. If you held up your book again, the creation, your being giant has nothing to do with the book, right? The book is a thing that you created. And it's evidence of energy that you put into it that created as a reality. But the giantness is who you're being in that creation, right? Who you are is giant. Who you create yourself as is the giant. When we look at the giants and the small is simply when you allow your small versions of yourself to rule, essentially. When you start thinking, I'm unworthy, I'm broken, I'm not good enough, all this stuff, and you start living into that as though that's your truth, that's what I mean when we talk about being small.
Yeah.
It has nothing to do with anyone outside of you. It's not a journey of us versus them or in groups or out groups. It's simply inside of you. You're allowing those small parts to dictate your life. And your creation isn't the giant thing. The giant thing, that's a result of the giant. That's a result of who you're creating yourself to be. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, it totally makes sense. It's interesting because, so I want to tell you, like, that I've always been insecure about the fact that I've not always been the sharpest tool in the shed, or, like, I'm from Newfoundland, so I'll have the slang, or sometimes I don't know, like, the right words or whatever, right? And so my spelling's terrible. Thank God for spell check, right? all these things, and it's like, I, as well as being a person with a disability, I was like, I have all these things that I don't like about myself. And so seeing myself as a giant, all those things are still there about myself, right? But I've stopped hiding it. And I think that's the beauty. I think people are hiding things that they don't like about themselves and insecure, feeling like, oh, I'm not a giant because I have this. No, you are a giant because you have that and you do it anyway.
Yes. Yes. Yeah. Thank you for that.
I'm confidently imperfect, not because I'm
Yeah.
thinking, the bigger my platform grows, do you think that it gets easier? No, I got to dig deeper because I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm going to say the wrong thing or I'm going to like do something stupid. But you know what? I just say the beauty of it is that I'm not going to always say the right thing. And there are times where like I'll say something like, oh my goodness, that was not the right thing. Or I've hurt somebody by what I've said and it wasn't intentional. But the thing is, when you're willing to say, listen, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
And I don't say, but this is the reason why. I'm like,
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
sorry that I hurt you. I'm sorry. And then hopefully that, I'm charming enough that people will understand that I didn't mean it or whatever. And you're not going to please everybody. But the thing is, accepting yourself and all of your weaknesses. And when you do something wrong or make a mistake, you own up to it and you do it anyway, right?
Yeah. Yeah. We all have fractures. We all have flaws. We all have, if we want to describe it that way, but there's beauty in the fractures.
Oh,
There's
yes.
beauty in the bifurcations and the, all of the messy parts. I have on my forearm here, you can't see it very well, but two wolves, the light and the dark. And there's that story that says that it's the one you feed. And I have a different version of that, which is that they're both important to who you are, because your light parts and your dark parts they're the parts that make you who you are.
Yes.
Like, right?
Yes.
Your pinkies, your small parts.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Even the parts I don't like, I can't give a thumbs up.
See?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, we would like to give you a thumbs up, Nick.
Listen, I have to tell you something that's interesting, and this is a life lesson that I like. I can't give a thumbs up.
Yeah.
And I would hide this hand. I wouldn't eat my food. I would not want people to see it. Okay. And eventually God started convicting me that like, I want all of you, not just the parts that you want to show.
Yeah.
Right?
Wow.
So when I finally started giving all of me, so when you see me with my hands raised like this, like that didn't come easy, but it was one thing at a time, giving up this little small thing. Like it might not sound like something small, but for me, it was a part of like, people are going to make fun of me if I like put my hands up and I'm all gimpy, right?
Yeah.
And so when I did this hands up and surrender, it's more than just wanting to be dramatic, because I am. it was about, I want to show all of this, and I couldn't stand to my feet, so I want to get as tall as I can,
Yeah. That is amazing. Acceptance, that self-acceptance, that's where it starts. It's hard to receive acceptance from anyone outside of you if you don't accept yourself. Like that radical acceptance of it is what it is. This is who I am. And it's not from a space of I can't change it. Sorry, this is who I am. Deal with it. It's not that. It's just, this is what's present, and this is what I deal with, and this is what I'm creating from. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And some of it you can, and you change what you can, but the rest it is what it is. Like,
this is something really, really cheeky, but a friend of mine, her son, when he was in grade kindergarten, is a teacher taught him this phrase: you get what you get and you don't get upset.
Yeah. Okay.
But it's so much more than that, right? But I mean, you just have to work with what you got, because you can't, I can't say, I'll never be happy until I can walk again. Like, right? I'd never be happy. Actually, a quote from my Contagious Courage cards that it's funny, it's fitting for today's topics and what we were talking about. And it's, if it's true that suffering is unavoidable, what do I do with all this pain and suffering? But the bigger question is, what can God do with all this pain and suffering? And that's what I did in my life. Like he took it, and like I think it's not that look at me, but look at who I am and who God has created me to be. And if you follow me in my everyday, I have joy, and people know that I have joy. And it's not something that I'm just going to pull out on an hour interview. Right. And so that is the proof. That is the proof.
That the masking of it, that idea there that, I'll pull it out for an hour and I'll show you that that's who I am for an hour, but the rest of my life, I'm not like that at all. it's really getting in alignment with your way of being. And I'd imagine, you know, we talked earlier about a platform, and you said, well, my platform can be the person I'm with, the barista. You know, if I'm having a conversation with a single person, that is my platform, and I can make an impact right there. And we started doing that with the Tribe of Giants. We do these shows, and sometimes if there's one person watching or thousands watching, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
We'll still do these shows because it makes an impact. But again, it goes back to the idea of we've been, you know, pretty authentic with who we are throughout the whole thing. You know, there's a version of us that's hidden, maybe, that you might not want the world to see, but it's who we are, right? It's what makes us who we are, and we're all humans. I don't even know where I'm going with this, but I hope it ties in.
Well, I think that's the name of the season, right? Ryan, what were you going to say?
I'm just sitting here thinking about, you know, like we've talked a lot about God and you know, and my personal belief, I believe in God, but there's a lot of people that don't, and there's a lot of people that will see this and, you know, and think this episode is about God or religion. It is in a way, but it also, go back through this and think about your life and pull out the nuggets that are in here. There's some amazing things just about being in life. I mean, like the things that you've gone through, the things that you've done, and then overcoming it, and or working with it, working with the now the superpowers that you have now, right? And you know, just, hey, well, cool. Guess what? You might have to spider web it in the bathroom, you know, Spider-Man it in the bathroom, but you could go to the bathroom.
Yeah.
You can think about gratitude. You can think about like I went through and I took some notes about don't underestimate the yeses.
Right.
You know that there's so many people who are in their own prison with the door wide open, and focusing on you, self-care. Like there were so many nuggets in here I couldn't even keep. I kind of just gave up after a minute. I got carpal tunnel.
Here, I'll send you my book, and then you can have all the
See?
notes.
Yeah, there they are right there. So you get her book, read it, learn it, apply the principles, you know, and um, in Nick's book, there's this part where Remy puts Rit on his shoulders, and he stands up and he gives him a new perspective and a new view
Oh,
on life, and he can see, finally he can see more than he could see before. Is really the point there. And you've done that today for me.
oh,
You've helped me to see a new perspective, and um, to to realize that it's okay really to focus on you. It's not, it's selfish in a way, but it's a good kind of selfish. And to
wow.
yeah. So you've helped me to grow and to see a different perspective. So thanks for letting me stand on your shoulder and see a new perspective today.
It's beautiful. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Bien,
Thank
if there was another piece of wisdom that you would share for this show, as we're coming up on time here, are you okay for a few minutes, or do you need to?
Yeah, no, I'm good.
Okay. If there was a piece of wisdom that you could share, if you were to travel back in time before all of this came about, and you're able to share one thing with yourself that would carry through, does that make sense?
Yep.
What would that be?
Girl, let go and let God sooner, because there's storms coming and you need to be rooted, because there's I mean, there's nothing else. I mean, would I say, oh, don't date that guy, don't date that guy? It's more about like you know, just giving up the fight sooner, because everything that I've been through has created me to be who I am. So I would just say, you know, get those roots deep, girl.
Yeah, get them deep.
Yeah.
Be gentle. You know, that's a big thing. Be gentle with yourselves, guys. I say that, and it would be so easy for somebody to say, "Oh yeah, be gentle," and kind of be disrespectful to the idea that your story is pretty intense for you. Your story is, you know, your journey, your experience is pretty intense, and so it's not to undermine that at all. It's just simply there's enough hard stuff going on for you to add to that by not being gentle with yourself, by not forgiving yourself, is huge, and can really just bind you up to where you're not growing anymore, because you're fighting what is, and you're fighting who you are in this time, you know. What comes up with that? Any additional thoughts around that?
Well, I just love when we were talking about giants and being a giant, and one of the things that you had wanted me to mention is how do I build giants in the world? And I would say simply just because I think we live in this upside down world where it's about me, 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 right? The more that you can feed into other people and build them up and empower them, like that says so much, like that says so much more about me if I can empower other people. Like it's like my friend who I passed the crown to, you know, have a crown. Don't be afraid, you know, to shine or adjust someone else's crown. Like we're all in this together. And to build up literally means to praise something or someone in a way that will influence people's opinions to make someone feel more confident. And like, I don't want it to be about the VN show. And even I know that I'm in the spotlight and I love the spotlight, don't get me wrong. And, you know, you'll probably see me popping up all over the place. But what I also hope you see is more of what has happened here today with, like, if I take nothing away from this, the opportunity to let someone stand on my shoulders to see clearly, that is what I believe building giants is about. And being seen less so someone else can, like, yeah, like when you shine, the people that you empower, when they shine, you actually shine more. And it's not to do it to get that, but that is. And I want to also acknowledge that there's so many amazing comments. I've been trying to read them all. So if you're listening, I've been reading them as much as I can, and I've wanted to shout out and say, yes, great comments by your viewers today. But yeah, it's just been so rich for me, even just what Ryan shared today and just these conversations. That's what it's about for me.
It's perfect. How do people get your book?
Well, they can go to my website, goingfarther.org, where I have all of them listed with everything that I have available, as well as I have a free course that's on my website as well. But you can find my books on Amazon too. So Contagious Courage, Living in Freedom by Vahen King, or Going Farther by Vahen King. And so that's all on Amazon. But yeah, please reach out to me if you want the book. Listen, if you want the book, reach out to me. I will gift you the e-copy of the book if you want to get it in your hands today or whatever.
Yeah, I love that. Thank you. Any other thoughts? Ryan, do you have any additional thoughts?
I'm just grateful for all of the experiences that you've been through, because those have led us to this path right here, right now, where we're at. It's a miracle. It's amazing. It's beautiful. It's a blessing. And so I know that there was some moments that were pretty damn hard for all of us, because I know your stories, and there's a lot of experiences in there that weren't shared today, that are the sum total of who we are right now.
Yeah.
And just a lot of gratitude for that. So thank you for being who you are and showing up today and serving not only me, selfishly me, but our whole community. And I know that you'll continue and to do that. And if you need support or anything from us, from the Giants, you've got it. So let us know however we can support you. And I'm sure this isn't the last time that we'll do something together.
I would love that. I'll take you up on that. And, I look forward to seeing my contract for the cartoon that I'm going to be.
That's right.
Vahen, are there any other thoughts from you before we wrap up?
Just, we can't always control what happens to us, but give yourself grace to deal with what you have to deal with, and love yourself. Just like, please be gentle and have grace for yourself and each other.
It's perfect. For those that are watching, thank you. Thanks for the comments. Thanks for spreading the message. Thanks
Yeah.
for all that you do. You know, as we look at this, what Vahen has offered here is a way to create yourself. I think we get hung up on change, right? The idea that change needs to happen and we resist change, but we don't resist creation. And so instead of trying to change yourself, create yourself. You're exactly where you are. You're right on time. There's no lost time for where you are. So from where you are, accept yourself, be gentle with yourself, have some grace for yourself, and then create yourself in a new way because it's available to you. So we love you. Thanks for being on our show. We'll see you in the next
love you guys.
episode.
You're my brothers now.
Yes, ma'am.
Love you too.
Bye. Thank you.